Hi, SGDQ Submission Committee. I'm Yellow Killer Bee, and this is Castle of Illusion for Genesis. I'm submitting this game. I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, I'm going to get started. I usually change the controls, but it's just personal preference. So this game does have a little cutscene at the beginning that we skip. Basically, it's telling the story of why you're in the Castle of Illusion. Basically, the evil witch, Miserabelle, stole Minnie away because she was jealous of how beautiful she was. And so now we're on a quest to go save her. And so we went to the Castle of Illusion, which is where she was being held. And every floor is like a different type of area. So you'll notice I'm jumping a lot. And jumping is like one of the main mechanics in this game, because if you're jumping, then you're going faster, because jumping is just generally much faster than walking. You'll notice I'm taking some damage. It's not really a big concern. In this game, if you take damage, it doesn't slow you down, and every time you enter a new screen, it like refills you back to 3 health. Alright, we're going to do a little trick here. We're basically going to avoid these chains, because it's much faster just to bounce on these butterflies, I guess they are. So that saves a little bit of time. I'm going to run away from the apple. In the remake, that is much more exciting and longer. So, yeah, this game's a lot about movement, a lot about jumping, and then the second mechanic is this jumping on enemies. Where it's not like Mario where you can just jump on enemies automatically. Like, you have to hold down or hold the jump button in order to make it work. So it's kind of like more of a pogo mechanic, kind of like DuckTales. So, oh, that's nice. We got a little optimization there where we jump off the top of the ramp, so you don't have to go down the ramp. We have kind of a tight jump here. I think we got that with plenty of time. So you'll notice I'm just jumping as much as possible because Mickey just tends to move a lot faster when he's jumping than when he's just walking. And we're taking damage and not really worrying about it because you'll see I've got 2. It's the power at the bottom left of the screen, and then when this starts I will have 3. So this is the first boss of the game. And the interesting thing about the boss is that at the end of a world, you want to have 0 projectiles and as close to 0 health as you can get. Like, you can't have 0 health because you'll die. So basically, we're taking damage and throwing all of our apples, which happen to be the projectile for this level. It's kind of scary. Like, this first boss and the first level in general aren't that hard, but it's kind of scary because these acorns are RNG, and so sometimes you can get a really bad pattern, and then you'll already have tried to get rid of all of your health, and then you kind of get stuck and die on the first boss, which is always embarrassing. But it happens very, very rarely. So that was the forest. That one's a pretty simple level, you know, as it should be as the first level, but as it is with a lot of Disney games, the difficulty like ramps up immediately for level 2. Like, I've talked to a lot of people where they can't make it past this level, which is the first level of the second world. So that's just something that I feel like was common with a lot of Disney games, where they tried to make it especially difficult for the second level, so that if you rented the game, you weren't able to just beat it immediately. So basically, we're using these soldiers to go much quicker than you normally would be just jumping, sometimes in combination with the planes. All of these aren't RNG, but they do have an element of timing. And so, like, if you're slower in certain areas, then you will lose time, like there where I missed that Jack in the Box. But it's not too concerning. Like, the main thing is just keep an eye on your health. Try to get as perfect movement as possible, but there's plenty of backups. I would say overall this is a fairly marathon safe game. There's only really one big skip, and if you miss it, then you lose like 15 seconds and just have to go the normal way, or you can even try it again. So this level is going to be a little exception to the rule of not really being too concerned about health. So as you can see, I'm going up here so I can get that star, which will give me more health. And I'm doing that so that I can gain 5 health by the end of this level and then use that on the next level, because if you have less than 3 health, the next level will reset you with 3 health, but if you have more, then it allows you to keep that amount of health. Also, this is the worst enemy in the game, Jello. If you do a perfect jump at the end of your jump, you can jump without getting stuck, but if you don't do a perfect jump, then you basically get stuck and it really stinks. Alright, so this is probably the biggest skip in the game. It's not too difficult, but if you miss it, it does lose a lot of time. Alright, we made it. So basically you just use that clown to bounce up to this next level instead of going around. It saves like 15 seconds. This level is really interesting. It's very precise movement based. There's lots of enemies, and then there's those arrows that you see there, where we're pretty much just avoiding hitting those at all costs, because what they do is they turn the level upside down. We do not want that to happen, because it wastes time, and then it messes up all of the patterns that you're setting up for all these enemies, and just generally confuses the whole issue. So if we hit those, it's bad, so we're just gonna try to avoid doing that. They're not too hard to avoid, but I have gotten them by accident in the past. So we're gonna try to avoid doing that. And also, as you can see, we have full health, which is good, because we're going to need that for the boss, which is coming up next. We've got another health just because. Why not? Alright, so this boss can be a challenge. It's also very heavily RNG based. You'll notice I'm throwing all my marbles out, because that's my projectile. So this clown boss can jump either 2 or 3 times before stopping. You always want him to jump 2 times. But as you can see, I already started off with bad RNG. Okay, that was 2 times, so that was good. Now we're going to do a little optimization, speedrunning optimization, where we didn't wait for the springs, we just take damage and then jump out from underneath him. But it's scary because the springs like get in the way when you do that. And then it kind of puts you in these precarious positions. Like, being in the corner with a clown is never a good thing. But so far, this went pretty well. Oh, we didn't quite throw out all our marbles, so then you'll get a chance to see at the bottom of the screen. So we got 3,000 extra bonus points because we didn't throw away all our marbles. So that wasted a tiny bit of time, but it's not a big deal. So now we get to go to the storm level. And this level is kind of a nice little break. It's probably one of the easiest levels in the entire game, because it's supposed to be like a maze. And with any level that's in a maze, once you've done it once, it's kind of not a challenge anymore. So, but it's nice because Toyland can be very stressful, and so you get a nice little break after doing Toyland. That's a fun skip, because you kind of just bridge the gap there, save a little bit of time. So there's all these channels that go underneath the level, and most of them bring you backwards, and you don't want to take those, and only one brings you to the end of the level. But once you know where it is, then it's pretty simple. So yeah, pretty much the easy part's over. Now we're on to intense platforming. So this level has the introduction of kind of waterfalls mechanics. And the waterfalls, like those waterfalls are fine, but the ones up here, like they will kill you instantly. There's like no falling down, it's like instant death. And then also there's just a lot of small platforms. That's kind of a skip. You can jump through that one because you're high enough to the top of the screen where it doesn't realize that you're getting hit. But I mean, this is harder than you realize because the movement's very slidey. It's almost like Mickey's on ice all the time. So like when you stop and land, you don't just land, you always slide. It takes a little while to turn around. This level, I can't even tell you how much I dislike this level. So, this level's RNG. There's 2 different patterns you can get with the water, like a slower pattern and a longer pattern, and it's completely random. So you never know which one you're going to get. And so in some parts, if you get the slower pattern, the timing is incredibly tight to get to the next portion of the level. And so it's better just not to try for it if you can tell that you're getting a bad pattern. So that level, like, is very frustrating to all speedrunners, because you want to get the best pattern so you can go as fast as possible, but it's just not always in the cards. Alright, so normally you're just supposed to jump on these guys as they come down. This boss is pretty easy. There was a thing where his sound cue didn't happen, so I couldn't hear him jumping out. I'm also trying to take damage with these guys, because as you can see, I haven't lost all of my health, but it's okay. Like, that boss is one of the harder ones to actually lose health on without risking losing time, too. Because you don't want to jump too early and miss jumping on the frog head altogether. I think they're frogs. That works. So now we're headed upstairs to the library. And this level is very strange because it's like, well, there's letters that try to attack you, which is always a little disconcerting. But also it like kind of hops back and forth between the main library and then like these little side fantasy worlds, which I guess are in books, but you go into milk to get there. I don't try to understand it. Anyway, this you have to avoid the Swedish fish, which I usually try to do in real life too, because they get stuck in my teeth. So there's kind of a cool time save at the end of this level. We had to make sure that we didn't run into any Swedish fish, or else we'll lose some health. We need all of the health we can get in order to do this at the end. So we're basically going to be jumping here, landing in the water, but it doesn't kill you in this level. It just bounces you out, and so it just lets you do that part a little bit more quickly without having to wait for the wafers. So this piece you have to go a little bit quickly because you want to make sure you don't miss that cycle. Thankfully, it auto-kills enemies when you're on the chain, which something Mickey Mania could learn a thing or two from, because there's nothing worse than like hanging from a rope or a chain and getting hit by enemies and not being able to do anything about it. So this game was fairly nice. Alright, little optimization there. Missing all my apples. No big deal. Oh, jumped a little early. That's okay. Do a back up there. Get hit by this 1A. No, okay, we're fine. Alright, so this is Sugar Dragon. He always has the same pattern. So as long as you can remember what the pattern is, you should have no problem defeating this boss. It is a little tricky to like get rid of all your apples at the same time. You gotta just remember. Alright, we did it. And again, this boss is like, it's really hard to take damage without losing time, so I usually don't worry about it. So we'll take a little hit there. And we are already headed off to the last world. This world is probably, I don't know, it's either the most difficult or the second most difficult, but it's also one of my favorites because it just has so many cool mechanics in it. The projectile we're gathering for this world is fire, and so you see me grabbing those candles, because I just will need a little bit of fire later on to be able to traverse through the level. This first part's always scary because health management is kind of an issue. You always will get hit by those falling blocks most of the time, but you just don't want to get hit too many times. Okay, we're fine. You don't want health management to become too much of an issue. That guy sometimes just doesn't die when you shoot him. He's special. He has special powers. So always try to have extra health. taking intentional damage here. We do a little bit of a skip here where we just jump up instead of using platforms. And then, just like in Super Mario Sunshine, bubbles are the worst. Alright. So, the rest of this level is pretty self-explanatory. So it's a good time to talk about this game. When it came out in Japan, after it came out, it was actually released as a dual set with Quackshot, which is a game I played at SGDQ last year, which is one of the reasons I wanted to pick this game, because I thought that was so cool. They kind of came out like a 2-game, 1-cartridge package in Japan only. And so in Japan, the names of the games were I Love Donald Duck and I Love Mickey Mouse, which I thought was like, it's just such a Japanese culture thing. Like, we would just never name games like that in the US, and I think it's so fun. So I definitely wanted to learn like both of the games in that package. Alright, so this level is the hardest level, and it's pretty much the last level, which I guess makes sense, but from a speedrunning perspective, it can be like the death of your run. And you don't even have to die. Basically, if you fall down anywhere, you're going to lose time. I mean, there I fell down, but like, I didn't fall down very far, so it's not like the end of the world, but... And then there's bats that are flying everywhere, and if you get hit too much, then you will also lose time. But it makes for a really interesting race, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do, was to enter this as a race. I talked with Darbian, and he was interested in entering this as a race, and so it can be really exciting because this last level, just so many things can go wrong, and so it really takes the it's never over till it's over to a whole new level, because it really does, like, it really is never over till it's over with this game. There's like a million terrible bats. There's a bat skip for this portion that makes it go a little bit quicker and actually makes it a little bit safer, although it is a tricky skip to get. But if you fail it, it's pretty bad, so I didn't want to put it in for the marathon. We'll see how confident I'm feeling if it gets in as a race. Alright, and now we're fighting the boss, and this boss is fairly easy. You do want to take some damage, but basically it's a pattern. Alright. We don't want to take any more damage though, we're going to be careful. So yeah, pretty easy. And we get our last Chaos Emerald, Rainbow Gem. So the reason we're collecting the Rainbow Gems is because we can't get to Miserable's lair, and so we have to collect the Rainbow Gems because that's the only way to make a bridge. There are no carpenters or masonry people. We can't get like a big log and just like stick it across there. We have to collect all the gems. But, you know, in hindsight it did only take less than 20 minutes to do that, so I guess it wasn't too much of a problem. Alright, so this is Miserable, and we're fighting like young Miserable because she's like stealing Minnie's youth. Because you'll notice like she looks a little bit different than she did in the beginning. Well, you didn't get to see the beginning, but she looked old. You can just take my word for it. And so these are all random. There's better placements and worse placements. Like, really the best is if she shows up in the middle on the bottom, but she very rarely actually heads down there. So basically I'm just like timing out these ghosts and hitting her on the head. And she has to get hit 5 times. I think that was 3. Oh, that's a good pattern. Okay, I went a little bit early there. Alright. So, that's it. And so you see she turned back into an old woman, and we're reunited with Minnie, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And this ending's super weird. Okay, so we just beat her up, and then the castle starts to fall apart, which is kind of a trope, like her power is crumbling and so the castle falls apart. But then she decides to save them and take them on a beautiful tour of the land on her magic broom. Like, I don't understand this at all, because did we just try to kill her? And she's like, I'll save you, and here's some fireworks. It's beautiful. So that was Castle of Illusion. It's a really wonderful little game. I don't know that this particular version has been featured. There was the Sega Master System version, and then also the remake was played a couple years ago, but the Genesis version is a great version, great music, great graphics. And I'm hoping to submit this as a race with Darbian, and I think it would be a really good race feature that the two of us could do. Right now our times are a little bit disparate because I just started running this game not too long ago, but I believe by the time that SGDQ rolls around I'll be able to have at least a comparable enough time that it will be a close race. So that's the goal. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this. Thank you so much for your consideration. I really appreciate it, and have a wonderful day.